Hello everyone, this is Kenneth Woody, and today we're going to be taking a look at the darker side of the Dungeons & Dragons arcane caster spell classes with the Warlock. And basically today we're going to be going over the Warlock class through some of the best builds, invocations, and overall best playstyles for this class. Alright, let's get into this. One of the more interesting things about the Warlock is not only how its spell slots work, where you always cast at your highest level available via pact magic, but what is arguably more interesting than that is the Eldritch Invocations feature that you get at second level, which is arguably the meat and potatoes of the Warlock class. First off, we're going to be taking a look at the Warlock as a pure class, and then we're going to be taking a look at the multi-classing into Warlock at later levels, or starting off as a Warlock, then multi-classing into another class at another level. Alright, so, of course, we're going to be talking about first a straight-up Warlock in 5th edition. Like I said earlier, Warlock is one of the classes in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons that, or at least earlier in one of my Sorcerer Guides on Nerdarchy, that it's one of the classes that you are in many ways far, far better off taking it all the way through to 20th level, mainly because of the maximum 8 invocations, the 4 5th level spell slots, as well as the Mystic Arcanum spells, one for each level 6th through 9th. Much like the Paladin, Sorcerer, Bard, and, Paladin, Sorcerer, and Bard, Warlocks are Charisma casters. However, the Warlock has a lot of things in common with both the Cleric and the Paladin in terms of how they gain their powers from assigning a pact with a god, or godlike being. So, we're going to be looking at some of the interesting builds for the Warlock, and one of the builds that's very fun for me, at least, is I like to call it the Sniper Lock, where you take, let's just list a couple invocations that you'll be using. Eldritch Spear, Eldritch Spear, Repelling Blast, and if you're going with good old Stanithor's Guide to Everything, Lance of Lethargy. And I'll explain why Lance of Lethargy is arguably more balanced than the Frost Lance invocation from the Unearthed Arcana that Fey Pact can get. And here's why Lance of Lethargy is good. Whenever Eldritch Blast hits, like for your first Eldritch Blast hits, or your last, depending on how you want to work it, it slows the target by 10 feet, which is rather nice, especially when paired with your max when your 4 beams of Eldritch Blast hit the target with Repelling Blast. That means you're effectively knocking them back 40 feet, but then you add on the 10-foot slow, you're knocking them back effectively 50 feet, which is really, really nice. And then you can just add in your Agonizing Blast to get more damage out. So, what feats do we want to go for an Eldritch Sniper? First off, you want to go Human Variant as your race. Variant Human as your race, and you want to take the Spell Sniper feat. So, feats, Spell Sniper. The reason why is that this doubles the range of all your spells. So Eldritch Blast normally has a 120-foot range, now it has a range of 240 feet. And then when you're using Eldritch Spear, that effectively becomes a 600-foot range spell. So we're going to look at our Warlock. We're just going to get all our features filled out, like Pact Magic, four slots of 5th, Eldritch Invocations, and we're just going to put the main 3 you're going to be using. So Eldritch Spear, Repelling Blast, Lance of Lethargy. This is actually going to be 4. Agonizing Blast. And just the other ones don't really matter as much. I usually always still recommend having the Sight invocations like Eldritch Sight, Devil's Sight, and Witch Sight. The reason why I recommend those invocations is because of because of how useful they are, and you can just have them all active at the same time. Now, Pact Boon's another strong one. I usually always go with Tome because more spells, so it's always nice, but you can go with whatever you want. But for this build, I really recommend Tome. And you can just pick any 3 cantrips. I usually always pick Vicious Mockery, Shillelagh, and Thorn Whip. And the reason why I picked Thorn Whip, I really don't need it with the Grasp of Hadar invocation that you can actually get, and that's also another fun invocation if you're pulling things toward your melee. So you can actually argue something like Thunderclap on your Warlock instead. Or even better, Green Flame Blade if you plan on using something for that, but I really don't recommend it, so Thunderclap's a good one to go with. Alright, so what stats do we need for Warlock? Again, Charisma's going to be your highest, so we're going to be using Standard Array with this, so we get to start off with 16 Charisma. We'll put that 14 to Constitution, put 13 plus 1 into Dexterity. Intelligence we don't really need as a Warlock, so that's an 8. But even then, you might end up making some Religion checks, so we're going to throw that as a 12. Wisdom you do need as a Warlock with Charisma, but even then it's not the best stat for you. It's actually it's not the best thing for a Warlock. And it's really weird. You're proficient in those things where you think you want to at least have decent Wisdom. No, Warlock's got 3 really terrible stats. Strength, Intelligence, and Wisdom. Those 3 stats are really terrible on a Warlock. It's oddly enough, it falls into the Sorcerer dilemma where, like, 3 stats are good, 3 stats are shit. So, really, it's just your poison. I'm going to put the dump into Wisdom because it can be actually kind of fun. So you don't have a lot of common sense type deal. And then we're just going to put that 10 into Intelligence. Alright, so now we have our full ability scores improvements to work with. We'll leave the background alignment, all that stuff for you guys to decide. 30 feet. But definitely you want to get Charisma up to 20 as soon as possible. So there's 2 ability scores right there. Definitely want to get Wisdom towards not a terrible dump stat, so let's boost that up to a 10. And Dexterity, I can leave where it is. I can actually safely leave that where it is. So we're going to put 2 ability score improvements into Constitution. Okay, so that's our ability score improvements right there. We have a really nice stat field even with Standard Array. Alright, so we're going to just basically look over spells now for the Warlock. And again, I personally find this build to be really fun with Warlock. It really doesn't matter your patron. Personally, Fiend Pact is the best in the player's handbook. Great Old One's kind of lackluster and it's more fluffy than really much else. It's great if your DM likes Eldritch Horror, or you just wanted to, cheese Awakened Mind for things. That being said, I really find Fey Pact to be the weakest of the patrons in the book, but it can also be rather strong depending on who's playing it and the setting of the campaign you're in. Okay, so spells that you need as a Warlock. Well, Warlock, you may think, oh, it's a blaster. It's things like Kiss of Mephistopheles, Agonizing Blast, and several damaging spells. And that's where you're almost kind of wrong. Warlock is a utility caster. It has the most damage of a utility caster. So let's look at these, what we have. So we're not going to worry about the Mystic Arcanum spells. We're not going to worry about them because they're kind of weird. Okay, so Warlock has a limit of 15 spells it can learn. One of the spells you're always going to pick up is Hellish Rebuke. A lot of people may say, well, why wouldn't you use Hex? Well, the problem is, Hex, yes, it requires your concentration, and if something dies, you can use your bonus action. If the target you have Hex dies, you can use your bonus action to move it to a nearby target. But in reality, that's never going to happen because your melee are always going to be killing the other targets, or other casters are going to be killing the other targets. So you really never get to worry about Hex. And Hex is a great spell. There's times where it's completely dog shit. And again, having more damage, it's great on the big bad, because that thing is not going to be dying anytime soon, and you can really cheese Hex, because at first level, it lasts an hour anyway. And even at 5th level, you cast it at Hex, it's a 24-hour concentration. For as long as you're concentrating on Hex, and you go to another fight, you can just move that over. Plain and simple. The reason Hellish Rebuke is the main spell that Warlock is going to be casting with its 4 spell slots is because it's the best motherfucking reaction in the game. It really is. Hellish Rebuke is the best reaction because it does A, 6 die 10 fire damage, a lot of fire damage, really instantly. But it also is something that a Warlock is going to be casting that spell, because if you hit the Warlock, they're going to be hitting you back harder, like almost harder than you hit them. So you don't fuck with a Warlock lightly. Next one, of course, is Hex. I'd be a fool for not mentioning Hex on the list. Finally, Armor of Agathis. There are other options, like Arms of Hadar, all sorts of other shit, but you're limited to 15 spells, so you gotta really keep that in mind. So that's 3 out of our 15, so we only have 12 left. Second level, Hold Person. This basically goes without saying, because your melee will love you for these two spells, Hold Person and Hold Monster, because you're helping them do more damage, because you're making them crit easier. They hit, they crit. Plain and simple. Yes, they get to repeat the save, but it's a paralyzed. It's much better than Maximilian's Earthen Grasp. I love Maximilian's Earthen Grasp personally, but at the same time, it's only a restrain and not a paralyze. So, yes, while Maximilian's Earthen Grasp, we don't get to repeat the save, which is in some ways better. It's just a lot of things are proficient with strength saving throws versus wisdom saving throws. Next one, Invisibility. Invisibility kind of, again, goes without saying. Third level, Hunger of Hadar. Dispel Magic. Counterspell. And Fly. The reason all of these, and mainly for Counterspell and Dispel Magic, you're a utility caster. It's not that hard to explain. Hunger of Hadar is a spell that can do more damage, that can easily rival a Fireball, but it requires it's a positional nightmare, because you gotta make it to where everything is, like, a lot of things are going to be passing through it instantly. And that's the problem with Hunger of Hadar. Yes, it deals 2d6 cold or acid damage, depending on when things start or end their turn inside of it. But it's also, you gotta position it to where, like, if you can position on top of a dragon and it's not moving, because you have things surrounding it, and you can just basically keep it trapped in Hunger of Hadar, you can easily kill a dragon with casting 5th level Hunger of Hadar. You can easily do it, but it requires several casts. Dispel Magic, again, you can just basically dispel debuffs, or anything like that. Counterspell, prevent things from casting, albeit you're not going to be as good as this as a wizard, sorcerer, warlock, or paladin. I think paladin is counterspell, I can't remember. But you're not going to be as good as the main counterspell users. But you can still help. Fly, because that's one of the few other spells that you can learn on this row. And it's still a rather decent spell, because having, like, let's say your wizard didn't prepare Fly, but you already have it spontaneously prepared, you already have it. Alright, so the last 6 spells, what are we going to be using? Well, for 4th level, Dimension Door. Plain and simple. The other ones are really up to you. Hallucinatory Terrain, I believe it's a 4th level one. Yeah, that's also a good one. And what are we going to do with our last 4 spells? Well, really, we're going to be peppering it out through the other levels, but 5th level, Hold Monster is a must-have. Scrying can be very good. And then we sort of are facing another dilemma. We can pick up another 2nd level spell like Shatter. I mean, there's nothing against you picking up Shatter, considering it's a Warlock, you can't learn it. And I believe it's also a rather good one to have as well. So Shatter. It gives us one more spell. There's a lot more options we have at 3rd level. But even then, I'd personally just prefer taking another utility spell like Banishment. Banishment or Contact Other Plane. And personally, I prefer Contact Other Plane as a Warlock. And that's our 15 spells. So now we're going to look at our cantrips. Eldritch Blast, if you're not taking this as a Warlock, you're probably running Blade Pact, or you're just a complete idiot. don't be the complete idiot. Um, Mage Hand is another fun one. It's good if you're trying to, like move shit without people knowing or like knowing about it. So it's good for sneaky characters. Prestidigitation. And the last one we get, I normally recommend True Strike over Blade Ward. Even then, I sometimes recommend True Strike over over Mage Hand. But the problem is, with the build that this is, you're never going to be making use of it, so Mage Hand's a little bit better. And then we take Blade Ward. Yes, I know Blade Ward is the worst cantrip in 5th edition, but Warlock doesn't have a lot of options, and Blade Ward's actually not terrible for a Warlock. Considering if something gets on top of a Warlock, we're just going to be using our goddamn... We're just going to be using our short sword, which is one reason I'm almost thinking of, I almost in many ways recommend Shocking Grasp over Thunderclap. That being said, I really do believe Warlock is a very fun class to play. It's a rather tricky one to learn because of how specific everything is. However, after 10th level, Warlock gets a lot of stuff like around the 10th level, like 10th to 14th level mark, really. Because that's when you're starting to get a lot more of your spell slots. 15th level, you already have 3rd level Mystic Arcanum, so you're still basically the same as the other casters, albeit your spell slots are really, really weird. Definitely, I can say that Warlock is one of the strongest role-playing classes for just 5th editions, well, 5th edition's game style in general. Really, all the classes can have great RP, but Warlock has a really good niche for that because you can actually bring religion the same way that a cleric would, but a little bit differently, because you can actually shape a campaign fitting the Warlock's mission from its god, which is rather fun. Again, this is sort of just, a quick mock build. If you guys want, like, definitely I encourage any of you watching this to look at the Warlock and really try to build it. Again, like I said earlier in the guide, you're only using these spell slots here on spells like Hold Person, Hold Monster if things need it, Hex if you can justify just being the selfish bastard Warlock to apply it, or Hellish Rebuke. Armor of Agathis is a little bit more useful for a Blade Walk because the fact that it specifies you have to be hit with a melee attack, which to be fair really rarely happens as a caster unless some things are rushing up to your ass. But if that happens, it's generally because something went wrong because your melee are dead. And if you have a cleric in the party and the melee are dead, then that's their fault because they're a shit healer. Or they went Death Domain and felt I got to do damage because I'm my character a damage healer. Yeah, they're still a cleric and they're really failing their class because they just failed their entire party. That being said, I really do like the idea. Like, I do love the role-playing side of 5th edition because that's where, in a way where the Warlock shines the best. Warlock is very good in RP, but it's also very strong in combat, and it's a great thing to go if your party needs a supportive character, but also wants that that little bit of damage. So Warlock is great because it actually can help your melee a lot better. And it's actually about as utilitarian of a caster as the Wizard. So, bottom line, try a Warlock out. Give it a try. And if you want, there's different multi-classing options I can go into as well. One of the most popular for Warlock is the Swordlock, where you take most of your levels into Sorcerer and the rest into Warlock. So usually one option you can go with is 15 level Sorcerer, 5 levels Warlock, where you have your Pact-Wind of your choice, but also get some other stuff from the Warlock, like more invocations, 3 more invocations, more cantrips, etc. But personally, the most common build you'll see for the Swordlock is 17 levels of Sorcerer for a lot of sorcery points, most of your spell slots, and the rest of the levels into Warlock. So you're 3 levels into Warlock, you still get your Pact-Wind, you still get Eldritch Blast, but you get 2 invocations to pick from, and you can change them on a short rest. So with that one, it turns you more into again into an Eldritch Blaster. The reason the 15-5 split is the thing because of Mephistopheles, which Sorcerer already has for free because of Quicken Spell. But albeit this one is an invocation, which is in some ways a lot better because you get your Fireball as a bonus action. Yes, it consumes your Warlock spell slot for casting a 3rd level Fireball, but it is rather useful. And again, one thing a lot of people want to debate about is whether or not you can sacrifice flexible casting spell slots. Well, use flexible casting on Warlock Pack Magic. The answer is no, you cannot. But I know some people that are willing to argue, have put interesting arguments. It's a spell slot, I should be able to use flexible casting on it. Yes, but it's not a sorcerer spell slot. If it's not a sorcerer spell slot or another caster that's not going off Pack Magic, then you can use it. If it's a Warlock spell slot, then you cannot. Because Warlock already gets all their spells back through a short rest anyway. They get all their spell slots back. None of the other casters in the game get to do that. Well, with the exception of Wizard's Arcane Recovery, they can get half their level back on a short rest. Actually, isn't that bad. Although those slots cannot exceed higher than 5th level, which again is rather annoying. But at least if you're a diviner, you can not lose as many spell slots by casting a divination spell. So it does sort of equalize out a little bit. But one of my another interesting Warlock build that you can see, and oddly enough justify, is several levels in Conjuration Wizard with Warlock if you're going with Chains. Another option for Warlock, again, can go Evocation Wizard, 18th level and 2 levels Warlock. The problem is, I don't really recommend that. I really don't recommend Wizard Warlock to begin with. I know a lot of people say, oh, Abjuration Wizard Warlock is great because of Armor of Shadows. Yeah, Armor of Shadows and Armor of Agathis. Yeah, here's the problem. Armor of Agathis is actually one of the worst reactions in the game. It's a good reaction, and it's a good thing if you're a Blade Lock, but it's not good for anything other than Blade Lock. Armor of Agathis or Blade Lock or Oath of the Grave Paladin, I believe, gets that one. Armor of Agathis is great for melee because it specifies you need to be hit with a melee attack. So if you're an Abjuration Wizard for 18 levels and you're trying to go into Warlock, you're actually failing your purpose as a Wizard by letting yourself getting hit with a melee attack. Bottom line, if you're going Wizard, you're better off really taking it all the way through unless you're rolling for your stats and can justify the other level dips. That being said, another fun one is if you're playing with Blade Lock. Again, Warlock Hexblade plus Blade Pact is the best. But you can go Fighter Champion for, let's say 3 levels, and then Warlock Hexblade for 17 levels. Or Fighter 5 for extra attack, and Warlock 15. Blade Pact. Again, Rogue Assassination for 15 to 17 levels. And Warlock for 3 to 5 levels. And again, that's also fun because you can go Blade Pact, and then you can just conjure your weapon to you. A cool option for tome, one of my favorites, is the Bard Lock. So you take 15 levels of College of Lorebard, again for more spells, and then you take 5 levels Warlock for your 3 invocations. Again, there's a lot of Warlock multi-class ideas going around, so you can probably just talk to anyone and find some of those things. Rather interesting feat you can take as a Warlock. It's not the Spell Sniper one. Is you can actually take the Toughness feat for the additional HP, especially if you're going Blade. Anyway, this has been Kenneth Woody, and I will come at you next time, hopefully with a video on the Wizard. Alright. Have fun, guys, and stay nerdy.